Hi, second grade mathematicians. Good morning. It's nice to see you, and I am ready to start our next math lesson. I wanted to remind you that every time we do math, that we have some norms in our classrooms that we want to follow. First, and you'll see them right behind me on the wall by our Envy Pride sign, I want to remind you that you can do hard things. That's called having a growth mindset. I want you to really, anytime you're struggling with math, remember that anything that is hard or feels hard, you can do it. You can do hard things. The second classroom norm that I want to remind you about is that mistakes actually help our brain to grow. So as we're doing some of the tricky work that mathematicians have to do, I want you to remember that you have what it takes. And even if you make some mistakes along the way, you are actually helping your brain grow and develop by making those mistakes and fixing them. For our math lesson today, we are going to focus today on talking about numbers and how numbers work together. When we talk about how numbers work together, we call that a number relationship. So our learning target for today's learning today is I can understand number relationships. And in our second grade classrooms, we talk a lot about how numbers work together in what we call a fact family. Those fact families are a relationship, just like you have a relationship with your mom and your dad and the family that you live with. That's one type of family. In math, we have numbers that work together, just like your family works together, and we call those numbers a fact family. A fact family is a special relationship. Those numbers work together in a special way. And one of the easiest ways to understand a number relationship or a fact family is to use what we call in our second grade classroom manipulatives. I'm holding in my hand a manipulative you know really, really well. We call these tools Unifix cubes. They come in all different colors. I have with me today green, and I also have with me some blue Unifix cubes. But as we're learning at home, we might not have Unifix cubes right at our hands. And in our classroom, we're always using those cubes, using those manipulatives and those tools to really help us understand that relationship. So if cubes were a helpful tool for you in our classroom and you don't have cubes at your home, you have to get a little creative. I'm going to use the cubes that you're used to seeing in my lesson, but while you're practicing your math today, here are some suggestions of some things you could use as cubes to kind of help with your counting. In my family, we have a lot of Legos lying around in our toy room. You could use your Legos as a counter, like our Unifix cubes. Another thing that is in probably everybody's yard or driveway is rocks. You could use rocks as your counters. And one more thing that you might want to use as a counter is, of course, something like marbles. Marbles are a great thing to use to count and to keep track as you're thinking about how numbers work together. I'm going to switch it over so that you can see the manipulatives a little bit better. And I'm going to explain to you today, again, how numbers work together and have that relationship. All right, boys and girls, I'm back. And now I have in front of me a triangle. And remember we were talking about those fact families, that relationship that numbers have. I also have my pile of cubes here. And to help you understand, I'm going to first look at my cubes. I'm going to put them all so they're going up like this. And I'm going to think about how many blue I have. And then I'm going to think about how many green I have. And when I put them kind of together while I count, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I can see that I have 4 of the blue Unifix cubes. And then if I count my green Unifix cubes, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I lost track. Let me try again. That's what mathematicians have to do. Sometimes they lose track and they have to retry their counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to do the same thing I just did with my
blue Unifix cubes. And in our second grade classrooms, we call this making a cube train. So now I have my cube train with 4 blue Unifix cubes, and I have my cube train with 7 green Unifix cubes. And when I'm looking at how those numbers work together, their relationship, I can think about it a little bit like a triangle. So in this corner of the triangle, I'm going to put my 4 blue cubes. And then I also have my green marker here, and I'm going to represent my 7 green Unifix cubes. And remember, I'm thinking about how those fit together, what their relationship is, what their fact family is. And up here at the top, I'm missing a number in the top of my triangle. The number that I'm missing is I have part of it is the 4 blue ones. The other part is the 7 green cubes. And I'm wondering if I connect those together, I will have the whole train of blue and green together. So this would be kind of what we call a part and a part, and we put it together, it makes the whole. And so at the top of the triangle, I'm going to be thinking about what is the whole group of cubes. And when I put the 4 and the 7 together, I can say, ooh, 4 plus 3 I know is a 10, and 1 more makes 11. So I can see that at the top of my triangle or my fact family, I would have 11 total cubes in my train. Another way we can show this relationship is by writing equations to match our thinking. So the first equation I might do is to start at the bottom of my triangle, and I would say the 4 blue plus the 7 green would make the total of 11. I could also work around my triangle in the opposite direction and say the 7 green plus the 4 blue would also make the whole, which is the 11. Now, if I also wanted to keep stretching my math understanding of that relationship, I could start with the whole total, which is the 11, and I could take away the blue part, which is the 4, and I would be left with the green part, which is a value of 7. I could also, again, put my cube train back together, start with the total of 11, take away the green part, which would be the 7, and that would leave me with the 4 remaining blue. We call this a number relationship or a fact family. Your job today is to look at these number relationships. And the work that you're going to be completing is called Missing Numbers. And just like you watched me today, here's an example of a different fact family. And your job will be to complete the fact triangles as well as thinking about the equations that would match that number relationship.
Remember, boys and girls, that today you are working on understanding those number relationships. Don't forget that if you have any questions about how to do your math today, you can always reach out to your classroom teacher. We look forward to hearing from you.